My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. And I see individuals online. I work with individuals in groups. And I have a website and also a workshop coming up. But this particular video is entitled Staying on Task Even When Experiencing Discomfort. Jenny Brown lists in her book, Growing Yourself Up, the 7 characteristics of a mature or more self-differentiated inner adult. And this is number 2. You can watch my other video on the first one, and I'm going to explain and talk about all 7. They're all very important. I think for those who are in recovery, that this process of staying on task is a way for us to not abandon the inner child. If we as the adult stay on task, we then are protecting the inner the inner child, and we're also caring for them and not abandoning them. Because often when we meet resistance in relationships or systems, we tend to abandon ourselves and abandon the inner child and continue to operate in the system in a status quo way, and no changes are made. The inner child becomes disappointed and hurt and abandoned, and we as an adult feel more cowardice or worthless or shame. And so it's very important that we learn to stay on task even when we experience discomfort. Peter Senge, in his book, The Fifth Discipline, in which he applies systems thinking to corporations, businesses, and organizations. It's an excellent book. He's kind of the creator of the learning organization used by a lot of corporations to help them break out of their quick fix thinking and start using systems thinking, which is a more long-term approach, which actually provides more change and actually allows change to happen. Quick fixes often don't create change, but only for a moment. And he writes, resistance is a response by the system trying to maintain the implicit system goal, or the implicit system belief, or the implicit system role, or the implicit system addiction, or the implicit system dysfunction. Because it wants to maintain that dysfunction. And so if you begin to operate differently, it's going to resist you. The system, the family, the church, workplace, whatever system we're in is going to resist us. And so if we understand that there is this resistance, then it's very important that we're able to sustain ourselves through that resistance and find a new setting and a reset on the other side of us functioning in the system or in the relationship or in the marriage. So again, it's staying on task when experiencing discomfort. Oftentimes, those of us, me included, for many, many, many years, we are used to folding at the first sign of resistance when changing our role in the system. When we want something to change for us, we then present that change to the system, we get resistance, and then we fold. And the status quo, the equilibrium, the homeostasis continues. And then we feel discouraged, upset, and much like we have failed, and that and hopeless, there is no use. Because if the system won't accept the new me, then why even try? Well, that's a quick fix or a very linear way of looking at change. If we look at change in a systems way, we can see the value in persistence or in courage or in consistency that, like Brene Brown talks about in her books when we're self-differentiating. And Brene Brown is another Marie Bowen Family Systems author. And so is Jenny Brown, Andrea Shera, Harriet Lerner. Those are good books for you to see change in a systems way rather than just a cause and effect way, which oftentimes will fail. So when we are on task, we want to learn to stay in place regardless of what the system is doing, and stay out of the emotional glue that's happening, and resist the emotional glue and the pull and the enmeshment or the rejection. I had a client I was working with yesterday, and she remembered some of my words, and she said she was feeling so much better because she always kind of feared rejection. She's a very good professional, wonderful person, a beautiful woman, and she feels so insecure when she feels rejected by a boss or a coworker or someone like that. And she was saying, well, Jerry, as you say, when I sense that rejection, I realize it really can't hurt me. It doesn't make my pants fall down. And she used another phrase too. I can't remember what it was. But right, it doesn't make my pants fall down. Why am I worried about their rejection? And so we learn those tools to be able to stay engaged with our new change. And so we want to learn to stay in place if we're trying to make a change in the system. And I'll give you an example of this at the end of the video here. We want to learn to stay in place, stand your ground, make your change intentional versus reactive. If we are reacting, then we're probably not going to affect a change. No matter, I don't care if we yell and scream or whatever we do, it won't affect a change. It will keep things the same. If we are intentional, then we can really make a change in our functioning in the system. And again, our issues, and we're going to be triggered by others when we begin to make a change, and that's acceptable. That should be expected. Expected. And how can we strategically deal with that? Increase your ability to hang in there and to tolerate this discomfort. The discomfort is the system's feelings. So when we begin to make a change, Dad, I wish you would not tell me that I'm stupid. That's very rude and I don't like that. And he said, well, you've always been stupid. I don't know what's wrong with you. Now I start to feel the system's feelings of shame. I'm not really stupid. I don't know what I'm not even sure Dad really even thinks I'm stupid. He's just using that as a way to keep the system in a status quo equilibrium, to continue the same dysfunction. And so when I have that system's feeling of shame, which is what it is, if I do something shameful, then I might feel shame. That's a true feeling. If he says I'm stupid, then I start to feel shame, and that comes from the relationship system. It's okay to ignore systems feelings. Don't ignore your true feelings, but it's okay to ignore systems feelings. And a lot of people don't know what feelings to ignore and what feelings to feel and let go of. Practice persevering and exercising your courage. Don't wait for it to happen, but to make it happen. And I've always said anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So even poor attempts at self-differentiation is better than reactive attempts at making a change. Now that's important. Poor attempts at self-differentiation and intentional work is better than reactive interventions that we try. Don't wait for it to happen. Many times we will wait, well, I'll do it when the system will accept me. I'll do it when Dad's not going to shame me. I'll do it. Well, you'll be waiting for decades, if forever, for that to change. And it probably won't. So we're learning to change us while accepting that the system is not going to change. And when we do that, when we change us while accepting the system is not going to change, we actually end up changing the system. Not directly, but indirectly, because we're bringing more calmness and more a sense of self to the system, which is what it needs and what it lacks. So staying on task. Trying something new always involves this characteristic. Use intention versus passion or systems feelings to drive you to be a true self in a system. Use an intentional. You will be more calm, will be less reactive. Don't be intense, but work, act, and feel calmer. Work on feeling calmer and being calmer rather than intense when we're making changes in a relationship, a marriage, a family, workplace. Avoid giving in because you'll lose self at that point. Then we become more our pseudo-self, which is a self based on what others want, desire, and need you to be. That's a pseudo-self, and many of us have learned that growing up. An intense blow-up becomes reactive and confrontational, which does nothing for a system, only to make it worse or more, or tightens the relationship even more and tightens the dysfunction. Intentional ignoring of the system's feelings. Just like the client who talked to me who's in business, who's in New York City, and she realizes that I can ignore this feeling of rejection. This is a systems feeling from growing up from my parents who were very rejecting, and now I see rejection around every bush. And I can ignore that feeling. I don't have to give it life. I don't have to feed it. I can ignore that and work to ignore it. Now you're saying, well, Jerry, is that easy? No, it's not easy. Of course not. But any work at doing that will provide a lot of benefit, even if it's to a small degree, because you're working in the right direction and it will begin to build on itself. Let me give you a brief example at the end of this video here. One of the first self-differentiation attempts that I tried was, I was a pastor at the time. I don't think I was a bishop. I think I was a pastor at the time. My father had passed away. And at our family, we all gathered around for family meals. And everyone looked to me to give the grace or pray for the meal before we started. And I began to notice that's kind of a pattern. Everybody's just expecting that of me. And, I really don't want to do that. This is my family. I'm not the family pastor. I'm Jerry in the family. I don't want to be the pastor here. I'm the pastor everywhere else. I would like the freedom to do what I would like to do, and I don't really want to do this. And I don't want to do it out of guilt or out of shame or out of they'll be disappointed or why can't I just do it? It's no big deal. I have all those kinds of voices going on, which are systems voices and systems feelings. They're not my true feelings. My true feelings are, I don't want to do this. I like to do this by choice, not because this is your role. And so I began to talk to my mom prior to a Thanksgiving dinner. I can't remember if it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, or when it was. We were all gathering. And like 3 weeks before, I'm saying, hey, Mom, I want to let you know that I just would rather not give the family prayer. I think some other people could do that. She totally ignored what I said. She wasn't even hearing me. So then I thought, well, I better talk to her again about it. So I did, alerted her again, Mom, hey, I just want you to know that I'm, because last time she didn't even hardly respond. So I think she was saying, it doesn't matter what you want, Jerry, you will be doing it when we get to the meal. So I thought I better talk to her again. And so I did. And she said, I understand. And then ignored me. And I think I might have done it one more time. In fact, I finally said, Mom, if I'm asked to do it, I probably will defer. So I just want you to know that. Again, kind of blank, ignoring it. Doesn't matter. Jerry, this is your role. You need to do this. So then we get to the family meal. Then we're right before we're supposed to eat. Everybody looks at me. Mom looks at me and said, Jerry, could you return thanks or could you give a prayer for the meal? I prepared for that because I thought that was going to happen. I had lots of anxiety, lots of feelings of shame, didn't know what was going to happen or if people would not like me, or here was my grieving mom having lost my dad and I'm treating her badly when I'm just wanting to do what I would like to do. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, including my mother. But at that point, I had prepared intentionally to stay the task, no matter how discomforting it was, and simply say, well, as I had shared with you, Mom, I think I would rather not be the one who gives the prayer for the meal. And then stayed quiet. That was the most difficult quietness I had felt probably in my life. I didn't know what was going to happen. Was my brother going to blow up? Was he going to be mad? Was he going to, why are you treating Mom so badly? Why can't you just do this simple little prayer? You're a pastor. Why can't you do this? So again, it's why can't you do your role, Jerry? What's wrong with you? And so I continued to stay quiet for this pregnant moment that felt like hours. And then finally, Mom decided to go ahead and pray herself. And so there was a great deal of anxiety, and then when Mom prayed, the anxiety came down, and there was calmness. And I felt, having watched the family later, that it provided an awful lot of relief and less anxiety for the family, in that I had done that with calmness, though I was still feeling anxious and worried, but I persevered through it, staying calm, or at least acting calm. And I wasn't blaming anybody. I didn't say, well, Mom, I told you that I wasn't going to do this. What's wrong with you? I don't need to shame her, or this is just my I position, self-differentiation, no one else's responsibility. I'm not blaming the family for putting me in this role. I'm just deciding this is what I would like to do. And do it in a calm way and an adult way. And actually, I think the family was never the same. In a positive way. Now, not all circumstances like that work out well. We have to practice that. Sometimes there'll be greater resistance. And I understand that. And in other videos, I've talked about the 3 stages of resistance that we have to go through before the system resets with a new you and a new less anxiety. So, I wanted to bring this to you today and give you an example. I hope that this has been a help to you. I have a workshop coming up in a couple of months, and I hope you'll join the workshop. I have coupons for people who are site members on my website. You can give me a call if you'd like to work with me. I'd be happy to do that. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and this video is entitled Building an Emotional Backbone. I think there are many misunderstandings about what emotional backbone is. I tend to like the family systems approach to an emotional backbone versus just, say, an assertiveness model. Because oftentimes, I believe people confuse being louder, being stronger, saying things more angrily, speaking up without knowing how the system is going to be affected by that, and then speaking up in a wiser way versus just speaking up and maybe speaking up out of part of ourselves that are actually unhealthy. Because I believe actually expressing assertiveness or being strong can sometimes more often serve the status quo than actually change anything or be different. Actually, it just ends up being the same cycle over and over again. It's just now you're the persecutor and they're the victim. then it goes from you're the victim to their persecutor, and vice versa, and it goes round and round. And that's not my idea of having an emotional background or backbone. How I see that is basically it's just repeating the patterns over again. It's just people switch chairs at the same concert. Well, I want to go to a whole different concert and a whole different ball game to have emotional backbone. Many of us who grew up in dysfunctional families, in which we find both codependence and counterdependence. Codependents are those who are more minus plus, I'm not okay, you're okay. Counterdependents come from more of a position of I'm okay, you're not okay, a plus minus. And I think emotional backbone requires a plus plus approach. But that's very hard for codependents and counterdependents. Counterdependents are people controllers, codependents are people pleasers. Neither have healthy, strong emotional backbones. And again, I believe a healthy emotional backbone ends up being a plus plus, or the old transactional phrase of I'm okay, you're okay. And I believe that's a very important relational stance, because if we don't take an I'm okay, you're okay approach, then we are going to remain in the status quo of patterns that don't work, and we're going to continue to perpetuate dysfunctional patterns in our relationships. Most of us are searching and desiring more emotional backbone. We want a strong sense of self. We'd like to have an ability to be less reactive. We want to be less shaken by conflict. We want to be able to state our wants and needs clearly. We want to stand firm with boundaries. We want to be able to say no in a healthy way without guilt. We want to reduce the plus and minus and plus life we have created around us. We want to not undermine ourselves with our abandonment, shame, fear of reactions, or ACOA issues. We want to know what is normal and expect what is normal for my life, to discover what I want and need, to discover who I am, not a self based on who others think I am or need me to be, and to overcome our allergy to intimacy and be able to receive and to give real love. That's kind of my view of having an emotional backbone. We also want to, I want to encourage those who are watching this video to maybe avoid the quick fix, because there is a quick fix out there. There's lots of them. There's tons of books that say do A, B, and C, and you will have an emotional backbone. Actually, when I've talked with people and people have tried those approaches, again, they end up repeating the patterns only from a different chair in the room. They haven't changed the room, they haven't changed the rules, they haven't changed the game, they've just switched their position around a little bit. And that maybe we can start trying a deeper fix or a more permanent fix. When we try to change ourselves from the outside in, we often end up feeling defeated when we find ourselves back in our old ruts, and we find we can't keep the change going. In other words, if somebody says, well, you just need to speak up, you just need to say something. Well, there are times we do need to say something. I'm not against saying something, and I'm not against speaking up. The difficulty is, if there is an entrenched pattern that exists and in a relationship imbalance that exists in a relationship, and you speak up, that can cause lots of problems and difficulties if you're not prepared for them, if you don't know what to do as what's my next step, if you don't predict possible outcomes so you can make other and prepare other responses and other behaviors so that we can keep the change going. often that one little tip is not helpful enough. We need a lot more, or need more information. We need to be able to observe more to actually make the change stick. Here are a couple examples. A wife goes home and states to her husband that she wants some time away from the kids and the husband, and have the girls' night out or girls' weekend with her girlfriends. And she has read that she needs to stand up for herself and tell or demand to her husband to hear her. Her husband then goes on the surface and, quote, allows her to go, but then ends up calling her numerous times per day out of his anxiety or his controlling and abandonment issues. This ends up ruining her trip. The wife gives up and says, it's just not worth it to stand up for myself. See what happens? It's just, I'm miserable if I stay home and I'm miserable if I go. Well, the difficulty and the problems there was not that she didn't stand up for herself. It's just she didn't know anything else but to stand up for herself. There's a lot more to building an emotional backbone than just doing that alone. There's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more happening, and we need to be prepared for it. Secondly, a man is controlled and guilt-tripped by his mother that he tries to get his mother to hear him and what he wants and needs. His mother ignores him and tries to get him to see how wrong he is and how her way is the best. He stands up to her or is assertive with her because his How to Be Assertive in 3 Easy Steps His How to Be Assertive in 3 Easy Steps book just said, go and tell someone what you need and what you want and be firm and don't back down. His mother tells all of his siblings how mean he's being. She is also triangled in with the man's wife to get him to get back in line. She even uses the grandkids to get her son to do what she thinks he should do. What she thinks he should do. He is frustrated with all the resistance, and his newfound strength starts to crumble or melt. He goes through drama and trauma with his mother, his wife, his kids, and just gives up, going back to the same rut, and wonders how he can ever be assertive in a way that works. These simple behavioral approaches, or what I consider outside-in approaches, and the 3 Easy Step approaches often fail. Unfortunately, because they don't address our inner child or the child within us who grew up and was imprinted by our family of origin. They don't address our stuckness within our family of origin and often our current family, wife, kids, etc. They don't address the parts of us which are wounded, hurting, shamed, confused, scared, abandoned, which cause the problems for the need for assertive anyway. We need to fix those problems so assertiveness works. One of the things I found out in doing research on assertiveness, because I'm very interested in assertiveness, I want people to be assertive. Assertiveness is a good thing. But what they found in the assertiveness training is this. If one is just taught assertiveness, number one, it won't last. And number two, if you don't fix self-esteem, it won't be effective, no matter how much training you do on assertiveness. So what that means is there are other factors involved that make assertiveness work. It's not just assertiveness alone that fixes it. Often we don't address the larger emotional system, only what I should do, and does not inform us as to what to expect, how to deal with the responses, how to maintain an ongoing life of assertiveness, or strengthening our emotional backbone. And often it does not deal with the enmeshment and fusion, which has often caused the lack of assertiveness in the first place. And I'm talking about a wider inside-out approach to building emotional backbone. Let me give you another example of outside-in approach, which does not take in enough information, nor does it see a wider system picture, and leaves the assertiveness seeker or backbone builder with a jelly backbone. For example, dad tries to be firm with the child. Child goes to mom. Mom undermines dad. Dad tries harder to be firm or strict with building discipline in the child. Gets undermined by mom. Child becomes rebellious and dependent on mom. How has dad's assertiveness worked? Not well. Now, why not? He's doing all the right things. He's voicing his needs. He's expecting compliance. He's stating things clearly. He's dealing with the relationship with the child in what he thinks is a proper parental way. The problem is there's a triangle going on which is not being dealt with, which will then end up affecting the child, and also undermining the, quote, backbone or strength of the other parent. And if we don't deal with those, you can be as assertive as you want. If you're going to be undermined all around the place, it's not going to be very effective, and you're going to find yourself feeling weak and ineffective again, and thus give up on trying, because you see, what's the use? So do we tell dad to just go get some backbone and go be assertive? Well, no. He should just get more emotional backbone with mom, and then their child will be all right, right? So he should just go to the mom and say, stop that, and be more assertive with her. No, often it will only get worse. The approach is too simple, too external, uses a non-system way of looking at dynamics, and does not take in enough information. It does not see enough. And I call this kind of a straightforward linear approach, which often ends in failure. In other words, just go do this, go directly and say this, or do this, or be this way, but it doesn't take in system dynamics. Now, occasionally, this approach will work accidentally. So, on occasion, it actually will work. But I think it works less often than it actually... That it more often does not work than work. And it certainly doesn't usually work over time, over the long haul. Affair recovery is another approach which does not lend itself to overly simplified assertive behavior. The wife has an affair, the husband feels hurt and wounded, the husband believes being strong and assertive, and now begins to set boundaries and be more vocal about what he wants and what he wants his wife to do and not do. He is using his voice now, he's being strong, he's being assertive, but what happens with this power, assertive, linear approach? Do things get better or do they get worse? Well, accidentally, sometimes they get better. Most of the time, things get worse. And the wife finds her husband even less attractive. She finds him controlling, confused. She feels mixed feelings about the marriage and does not focus on herself, but on her husband's newfound negative, pushy, police state assertiveness. And things get worse. So I've told you some ways in which things don't work very well. So what do we do? Is there a way out? Well, I believe there is. And let me share 2 points. Emotional backbone is mostly a fight between us and us, not between us and others. Power has to happen within me before I expect other people to take me seriously, to respect me, to hear me. Things have to happen within me. Oftentimes we don't do that work and just expect them to happen in other people and then wonder why they don't. Heal and recover from the demons of the past will begin to stop the fight between you and you. Others take advantage of the internal fight we experience. For example, we can remain firm or set boundaries because we can't remain firm or set boundaries because we feel too much guilt or too much shame too much fear of abandonment, too much fear of rejection. So if you try to come out punching, you're going to end up weak again because you have too many of these fears going on. So just being strong externally is only going to scare you more. And how's that going to help you? We have to deal with the internal. Second of all, having emotional backbone does not simply occur because we have learned a few steps or some simple behavioral changes. I'm not against learning new behavior or learning some assertiveness training. And in fact, I think once you begin to change internally, it can be very useful. But to have success, deeper issues and systemic stuckness must be addressed. Using and having a voice, acting assertively, feeling and acting in a self-differentiated way only works well and in a long-term way if, and then let me share some things with you, if you learn to see and think systems, see how your lack of assertiveness and your sense of self is tied in with your family of origin and your current relationship system. Secondly, learn to calm yourself in highly charged emotional relationship situations. If we cannot calm ourselves, then we will fall back into the ruts of the past and our emotional demons will take over. And they'll take over one more time. Thirdly, become an expert on you. I don't mean selfish or self-centeredness. I mean becoming an expert on your thoughts, emotions, and not so much an expert on the thoughts and emotions and reactions of others. Now, systemic work and doing systems work does mean we kind of predict and can understand how someone else might react. But oftentimes we are far too much of an expert on others than we are on ourselves. Letting go of our naive and immature illusions, allowing us to grow up, though many don't want to because it's hard to grow up. Our illusions keep us weak and soften our emotional backbone. These illusions might be, I need my dad to love me to be happy and whole. I need my husband to think I'm special to be happy. I need my kids to not hurt my feelings so I can feel good about myself. I need others to stop betraying me before I can be happy. I need my wife to love me so I can be happy. If I am loving enough, love will come back to me. If I only act like I have emotional backbone, things will get better. Overfunctioning for others will get me into heaven. Love is really love when enmeshment occurs. And I can never get over my past. These are some of these illusions that we have that keep us from having good and healthy backbone. Fifthly, dealing with codependency, fusion, and enmeshment is a more long-lasting way to build an emotional backbone. Deal with enmeshment. That's going to make a big difference in feeling stronger and more powerful inside. Overfunctioning is another symptom of a soft emotional backbone. Helping and caring is not the same thing as overfunctioning. Doing self-care, also, number 7, builds emotional backbone. Let me share a little tip about saying no to others. Anne Brown, in her book on building emotional backbone, states, saying no is not about providing excuses. Saying no is not a rejection of others. Saying no is not about emotionally controlling outcomes. Saying no does not mean we are being difficult. I'd like to recommend some books to you. Saying What's Real by Campbell is his last name, very good book. When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Smith. Developing Your Backbone, The Science of Saying No by Anne Brown. Your Mindful Compass by Chara, C-H-A-R-A. And the Harriet Lerner books like The Dance of Anger, The Dance of Fear, If you need help strengthening your emotional backbone, or need help with saying no without feeling guilty, or gaining a strong emotional backbone which allows you to quit controlling others, then I hope you'll give me a call or email me. I do in-office or Skype or FaceTime counseling online. Please contact me if you have any questions. I hope you'll like this video. I hope you'll put comments below. I respond to those. And I really want to thank you for listening today. I hope today was a help to you, and have a great day. Hey, hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and this video is entitled 32 Traits of a Narcissist. My past includes being a social worker, a chemical dependency counselor, a psychiatric family counselor, a pastor, and other things as well, a marriage and family therapist. And now I am a life and relationship coach, meeting with people all over the world. And I'm glad that I have people who enjoy my videos and send me comments that I'm so appreciative of. This video I felt was important to talk about the traits of narcissism so that people can be educated and protect themselves, is the purpose for this video. I hope that you will join my YouTube channel. Click join. I hope you'll click the bell so you can get the new videos that come out. And I particularly would like you to join the inexpensive YouTube membership. If you join as a member, it's $1.99 a month, and it helps us create more free videos. These take work, time, and energy, and viewer support is very important to continue these videos and to make them free to my audience. I also have a masterclass coming up on December 5th, 2020, from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be on Zoom, so it'll be COVID-free, and you can have a workshop with me live. And I hope you'll go to the website and sign up for that workshop. Again, I want to share with you today traits of a narcissist. And remember, these are traits. This is not for the purpose of diagnosis. Please consult with a mental health professional about the narcissist trait people in your life. Now, while I agree we should be careful about labeling and diagnosing someone, however, we make assessments and evaluations of people and situations all the time. I want to inform that process that we use every day with these traits so that we can make a common sense assessment. And many people I have heard, many people said, well, you shouldn't diagnose someone with NPD unless they've gone to a psychiatrist to get diagnosed. Well, I wonder how many NPD sufferers will show up at a psychiatrist's office. Probably not very many. And again, these traits are to help protect us from the narcissistic trait people in our lives. Now, we don't have the same rules. Let's say if somebody has depression, we assess that someone is depressed without an MD's signature on that. Also, I have a right to act on what I see and observe and sense, even if I didn't graduate from the medical school at the University of Chicago, which the psychiatrist that I worked for a number of years had graduated, and he was excellent at diagnosing. I do believe that a misassessing of someone can be harmful and that we need to get guidance and help. make sure you're using your adult self, not necessarily your inner child, your adult self, your non-reactive self, to assess someone. Because narcissists are not simply people we just don't like, or may even treat us badly. People who treat us badly may not be narcissists. But that can be one of the traits of narcissism. This video is to inform us about the people who tend to be along the narcissistic spectrum or continuum. The fewer the traits, the less the narcissism. Each of us could have some of these traits. The greater number of traits, the more people tend to be narcissists. This is a common sense awareness of how narcissists operate and how we can think about them. I would strongly recommend the book by Dr. Joseph Burgo, The Narcissist You Know, Defending Yourself Against Extreme Narcissists in an All-About-Me Age. And that's Dr. Joseph Burgo, B-U-R-G-O. And he's a psychologist, and I think he does a great service in helping us understand different types of narcissists. Basically, there are 5 signs of narcissism. 1, emotional insecurity. And these are signs. I'll get to the traits in a minute. Generally, emotional insecurity, an emotional reactivity that's highly sensitive, an extreme sense of entitlement, circular arguments that don't make sense, pathological lying, and blaming you for their problems. Here are the 35 traits of narcissism. The more traits, the more categories, the more narcissistic the person is. And we want to discover a critical mass. In other words, not just 1 trait, 2 traits, 3 traits, but really we start to see many traits start to build as we try to evaluate or assess a parent, a sibling, a coworker, a boss, a pastor. Just because someone does not seem to show much empathy, for example, doesn't equal that they're a narcissist. Though a narcissist will have little to no empathy. The more traits, the stronger the case for MPD. But people who have 1 trait from each category can be troublesome. So let me share with you these traits. The first group is empathy and emotions. 1, feels uncomfortable with his or her emotions. 2, lacks interest in you and your feelings. 3, criticizes you for feeling too much or for overreacting. 4, when angry or upset, often denies feeling that way. A narcissist will not take responsibility for their own feelings. And they will stir up trouble, they will stir up conflict, so they don't have to be responsible for their feelings. 5, feels envious or imagines other people to be envious of him or her. 6, goes on the attack when hurt or frustrated and can explode with rage. And 7, lacks insight into the way his or her behavior affects others. They are just not interested in how it affects others and have no insight into how it does affect others. Second category, self-image and social interactions. Number 8, is preoccupied with the way he or she is viewed by others. 9, arrogant, vain, and haughty, exaggerates accomplishments. 10, makes obvious plays for attention and admiration. 11, hyper competitive and ambitious. 12, easily slighted, tends to misinterpret innocent remarks as put-downs. And again, they have a very highly sensitization to shame. And if it gets any close to that core of shame, they just react. And even innocent remarks can create that. 13, makes contemptuous remarks about other people behind their backs. 14, ridicules you and makes you feel bad about yourself. The next category, impulsivity. Trait 15, lacks self-control, spends beyond his or her means. 16, overeats, drinks too much, or abuses drugs. 17, can tend to be a workaholic. 18, initiates grand projects but can't follow through and doesn't do well with following through. Now, that doesn't mean everyone who doesn't follow through with projects is a narcissist. But if we have a number of these traits as they're starting to pile up, then we start leaning towards narcissism. 19, falls quickly in and out of idealized romantic love. Because when we are in love, we should grow into love, and then when we end the relationship, it should take a while to get over it. For a narcissist, it may be in and then out. It's flipping of a switch. 20, makes important life decisions with little forethought. Not good planner for how it's going to affect other people, how it's going to affect them. They just make life decisions and go. 21, is unfaithful in marriage or committed relationships. They don't have that commitment and connectedness. The next category, interpersonal relationships. Number 22 trait is self-absorbed, controlling, and exploitive of the relationship. 23, can be seductive and manipulative. 24, tends to be overly jealous and possessive. Excuse me. 25, dominates conversation and frequently interrupts other people. 26, is suspicious of other people's motives, always imagining the worst. 27, demands uncritical allegiance and loyalty. 28, bullies others to get his or her way. The last category is moral code and personal responsibility. 29, lies or distorts the truth for personal gain. 30, blames others or makes excuses for his or her mistakes. 31, plays the victim and uses guilt to manipulate you. 32, engages in illegal or unethical behavior. 33, feels entitled to have what he or she wants. And certainly what he or she thinks should be true. 34, comes across as self-righteous and bulletproof during arguments. And 35, inspires self-doubt when you disagree, inspires self-doubt when you disagree, shames or humiliates you. Now, those are 35 traits of the narcissist. And again, each of those categories, depending upon how many traits someone has in each category, if there are 5 traits in each category, that's really spiking up that diagnosis of narcissist. And I thought these traits would be helpful for those who have asked me about, well, who is a narcissist? What is a narcissist like? Is a narcissist just somebody I don't like and is not easy to get along with? No, it's a personality disorder. And these traits, as they mount in the number of them, point someone towards the narcissistic assessment of them. Again, we want to discover that critical mass, not just 2 or 3 traits, but there's a good number of traits that someone has to begin to think, wait a minute, I may be dealing with someone who has some real narcissistic problems. I hope that you'll join my YouTube channel. It's only $1.99 a month. And that's a paid membership, not just a subscription, but you can subscribe and then the videos, you'll be notified when I have videos. I want to thank you for watching today. Please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at my website, www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems. Join the workshop that's coming up on reducing your reactivity on December 5th, 2020. And I hope you have a great day and be wise. Hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach, and you can find me at my website, jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. This is the 4th in a series of 7, talking about the 7 characteristics of a mature inner adult, mentioned in the book Growing Yourself Up by Jenny Brown. I want to tell everyone that this video, as well as all of my videos, will be on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and you can also go to anchor.fm to listen to this on the go, online, offline, and for free. All of my videos will be going up. My music I wrote and sang is also up on Spotify. You can also see photos of me with hair, with that particular music choice. This video is about an important concept for Bowen family systems theory. Jenny Brown, in her book Growing Yourself Up, being able to stay in contact with those who are upset or upset with us. This is one of the 7 characteristics of a mature inner adult. Now, in this video, I just want everybody to know, because sometimes there's confusion, because I do videos on narcissists, adult children of narcissists, and I'm not talking about abusive, malignant, or very toxic relationships. Those relationships require detachment and distancing. Sometimes we have to distance before we can detach, even with them. This video is about detachment and not distancing. Staying in contact means we do not retreat and we do not charge in or become reactive regarding our relationships in which others are upset or disagree or shame or guilt us. We stay put emotionally. We stay non-reactive. Now, why is this important? Why does it matter? Why don't we just cut off and emotionally run away or avoidant? Because this practice and process of staying put emotionally and staying non-reactive helps us to calm down overall in life, calms the emotional field that we operate out of, calms the automatic self, and I think affects the limbic system, that automatic, unaware part of us. And it is an opportunity for us as adults to stand up for the little child within us, to stand up for us and stay put. We then become more of the non-reactive self, more solid self, real self, a mature self. We become less scared over time, more solid inside. We eventually feel better inside. And we feel good that we have brought more calmness to a very uncalm relationship. And we have brought calmness to it. When we don't detach, and when we distance or cut off from others, we do it because we cannot handle someone else's upset. The good news is we don't have to handle someone else's upset. Let me say that again. We don't have to handle someone else's upset. There are some people say, I don't care at all what anybody thinks. That's often not a very self-differentiated statement. We do care about what other people think, but we allow them to be them and us to be us. So there's nothing wrong with staying connected. Those people have disconnected. I don't give a flying fazua about what anybody thinks about me. I always see that as more bravado and more of a cutoff in bravado. When we distance or cut off or become avoidant, this has an internal cost to us. It is a de-selfing. It hurts us when we do this, distancing out of our fusion, our immaturity, or out of our wounded inner child. Because then we keep wounding them when we don't stand up for ourselves. We want to learn and practice to detach and not distance. When others feel upset or are upset with us or disagree with us, then we want to detach. We know where I end and you begin. Let me give you an example. I had a client who had a severely underfunctioning family. I mean very severely underfunctioning. And she became kind of the golden child, put herself through college, making very, very good money. The rest of the family was underfunctioning, could not get their lives together, wouldn't get jobs, all kinds of things. And the family had trained her since childhood to feel sorry for mom, dad, the sister, and to caretake for them over and over and over again, to the tune of tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Houses, all kinds of things. She has learned to run away from them and then give in, then run away, and then give in, and then caretake, and then feel sorry for them, and then feels guilty about doing well financially. She strategized and practiced and role-played about being herself while staying connected with her family. She worked on her childhood pain and her paradigm about how she thought about her family, what she owed them or what she was trained to owe them. Excuse me. She then felt stronger so she could then resist her family's asking, pleading, and demanding for help. She practiced doing the broken record to her beliefs and her own I statements. And she prepared herself to not run away nor cave in, leaving them to their own upset and their own feelings, not taking responsibility for their feelings or their decades of underfunctioning, or feeling guilty about her success and the hard work she put in to get her undergraduate degree, her graduate degree, get a phenomenal job in her industry. As an example, her dad wanted her to take care of his lawn care and pay for his cable. He has been a hoarder, detached, non-involved, sometimes abusive father growing up, a failed CPA, dependent, never would care for himself or take steps to get help. Also, he didn't do much in terms of taking care of the family growing up either. she was able to say, "Dad, I know you would like to have me pay for your lawn care and your cable, but I choose not to." By the way, he smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day, won't get any kind of job, won't make friends, only wants to wallow in his learned helplessness, his hoarding, and his underfunctioning. And he says back, "Well, that's not much for you." She says, "It may not be, but I don't choose to." "Why are you not caring about me right now? I sent you to college so you could take care of me when I am older." He literally said that, and has said that many, many times. By the way, he paid a very, very small amount for her college. Very small amount. She paid for all the rest and took care of herself. She took care of the family and herself all the way through college. "Dad, I know you did do some help with a small portion of my college, but I don't choose to pay for lawn care and cable now." Crying and yelling, "Why don't you help me when I need help? Your mom never did. Now you're just like your mom." "Well, Dad, sometimes I'm like you, sometimes I'm like Mom, but that doesn't change my decision or choice to not pay for lawn care and cable." "Stop making this so difficult. I'm just asking for lawn care and cable. I know you can afford it." "I don't find this difficult at all, Dad." "Then just don't talk to me anymore." And he hangs up. He then cuts off. She doesn't. He is harmed, not her. Herself is still intact and stronger. She feels she has gained a victory, not over her dad, but for caring and staying with self. After she calms down, she feels much more calm, stronger, feels as though she does have a more solid self, and feels the glow of the success of being herself while staying connected. She has nothing to be ashamed of and no reason why she can't talk to her dad next week, or because she hasn't done any reactivity to cause her shame or guilt. And so she feels a more solid sense of self and is a more mature adult. She also practiced working on the resistance she was going to get from her family and the resistance she was going to get from her dad. And as I work with clients to do that, they learn to do that more and more with other people and other relationships, and they start to feel differently in a better way and a more solid self. I hope you'll go to my website, subscribe to this YouTube channel, also sign up for my May 30th, 2020 workshop, which is going to be Introduction to Self-Differentiation, which is what I'm talking about here. The next video, I want to talk about ways in which we can stay connected while being ourselves and staying connected while others are upset. I want to do another video on this. I want to thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.